It's Dr. Kevin Stolaric. I am with the India Institute for Competitiveness in Toronto and a professor of urban studies at the University of Toronto. I think one of the things that's really important is to recognize excellence and to really help bring attention to those organizations, firms and organizations who are really doing something special. And I think the Porter Prize is a wonderful way to really recognize those companies in India that are doing great things. And part of it, I think, as well, part of why that recognition is so important is because it helps then set the stage for other companies to say, hey, here's somebody we need to understand, we need to look at what they're doing. I think if you look at throughout the kind of history of just research in general, strategic research and management and all the rest, it's always been about kind of how do you understand and recognize who's doing a good job so that you can then go forward and help other companies also develop. I think, we've already talked today about the importance of regions. We've talked about technology, we've talked about governance. Those are all important. I think I mentioned this morning, right, I said I did 35 cities in India in 35 days last year. And the one thing I can tell you is the roads here are really bad. Just driving around Delhi, the roads here are really bad. And so I think there's a tremendous infrastructure challenge. The Prime Minister has talked about it already. He's talking about it in New York today. But I do think it's really important to say, in order really, right, and to be able to compete, to be able to really be successful at helping companies, they need to be able to get where they need to go. They need to be able to move their products around. They need to be able to move their people around. They need to be able to move their ideas around, right? It's not just about physical infrastructure, it's the kind of virtual and digital infrastructure as well. But those pieces I think are incredibly important. And if you don't have that, I think it's really hard to, no matter how good you are in other places, it's really hard to be successful there. I think in so many ways, the competition here is becoming greater. It's becoming more competitive, which is really actually very good. It's challenging because it says that, you know, you kind of have to compete to win, right? You really have to be successful. But I think the kind of intensification of competition and competitiveness itself forces everybody else to be better. The global competition does that as well. And I think as you shift more and more from specific having to, you know, the kind of Indian content requirements and allowing more foreign direct investment and dropping some of the barriers that way, it increases competition. And I think India itself, to be successful, right, to be successful globally, to be successful here, you have to be competitive globally. And so I think that increase, that intensification of competition, I think actually leads to, although some challenges, I think in the long run it actually makes things better.